Going live. Hey, everybody, it's showtime. Showtime, and I'm a giant nerd. All right.
Do. Oh, yeah.
Ready to go live. Hello, everybody. It's a dinosaur. His name's Rex and blah 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 bloop. Do 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 do. Yeah. This episode is sponsored by Quack Alert. They are ridiculously in love with ducks. I have no clue why, but you know what? Oh my goodness. Hello everybody. What is up everybody? Hey, it's craziness. Hey, sorry, we were actually having a really good conversation before we went live. Anna Maria Jackson Phelps, I am sorry, you know I love you. So I'm going to say that right off the bat. Thank you for being patient. But yeah, we were just having a good conversation backstage. Is that what we call that? Now, it's not like it's a real live like show, but yeah, backstage we were having
Behind the scenes
and deep conversations about things and stuff. No, it was definitely an enjoyable time. But yeah, we were having fun. What's up, Time Roller? And Rachel Blasky's in here.
Hi, Rachel.
So yeah, love you all. Thanks for being here. I'm excited.
Yeah.
Because I have Lauren here from XYZ Game Labs, and we're just going to kind of talk about some kind of tougher subjects. We're going to be talking about domestic violence. We're going to be talking about the amazing game Arch Ravels. We're going to be talking about her journey, her own journey with real life experiences related to domestic violence, and also the journey that she has had in the board game industry. And I'm excited. If you have questions in the chat, please put them down below. I will ask them as I see them. But yeah, I am beyond happy because we played a game during our ridiculous 24-hour charity live stream. 24.
I don't know how you do it. I'm exhausted just thinking about it.
Luckily, it wasn't all 24 back to back. I did that in November, but we are planning right now, if we can get enough sponsors and make this happen, we are looking at doing on April 10th a possible 24 hours, 2-day live stream charity marathon with publishers, hopefully showing off games, and in our Discord at the same time. We're going to be working with a House of Afros, Capes, and Curls. And so mark your calendars, April 9th, April 10th, and we're gonna be raising money for a good cause because I love Jade Rogers, but I also love this person that's beside me right now, and I just want to say that I really want to do a little bit of my
oh my. That was so funny that we were just all doing that impersonation the entire time we were playing Arch Ravels.
I think it was great was when Jordan was like, okay, now let's try it with Star Wars. So we did Obi-Wan Kenobi's voice where it's like, Anakin, I have the higher ground. Oh my. So, Lauren, tell us about yourself.
Sure.
Tell us about kind of what got you into the board game atmosphere. Sure. Now, of course, you also do a lot with business analysts.
I'm all over the place. I don't expect you to know my full resume. Yeah.
I mean, I don't know.
Yeah. Sure.
So, but yeah, tell us a little bit about yourself and let everybody know. And
sure.
And folks, if you have questions, please put it in the chat. Thingamabobber, and yeah, sure. Let's have some fun. And I'm gonna drink some soda while I'm doing that. It's seltzer water, just so everybody knows. Okay.
Yeah, so I got into gaming at a very early age. Actually, my best friend, who is the knitter and crocheter / crafting consultant for Arch Ravels, was the one who really got me into gaming. So I met her. She was my next door neighbor. We literally met at like the division yard line of our plots. We were just like so romantic, like as like 4-year-olds, that's how we met. And then like we've been friends ever since. So like literally my longest standing friend forever. Her family really got me into gaming. I was so impressed, like going into her basement and then them opening up showing me their shelfie, and it was just like filled with games, and I just could not believe it. I was like, oh wow. I was like, what are we gonna play, which one? And I was so amazed by that. And then I got older, focus on academics, unfortunately didn't give us much time to gaming, which is really sad. Rediscovered it in college, actually, Settlers of Catan, and all that game was the one that really reignited me back into gaming, and then Munchkin and Pandemic and all these other games. So that you know, I sort of started playing more games, you know, later on in life, and then finding out that there's like all these different types of games that are available. And then, of course, meeting Adam and Jordan at the tech consulting company where I'm a business analyst at, and they needed someone to help them with their marketing needs, their communication needs. And so I was like, yeah, sure, I'll sign up. Had no idea what kind of world I was entering in, really. But I'm so glad to be here because they're great people to work with. I get to do all the BA work, the the digital tech stuff, and make games and make an impact. And so yeah, that's how I first got into gaming, and that's why I'm here today. So
That's
yeah.
awesome. I know. I know. One of my favorite things. I heard you listening. I heard you talking about it. Like you're a business analyst, where you're really helping a lot of companies kind of figure out where the
Mm-hmm.
gaps are, and helping them find ways to close the gaps. Whether it be maybe using some sort of business intelligence, or possibly learning different metrics and helping them see, okay, this is your baby. I understand that this is your baby, but you're asking me to come in here and you're asking me to help you make it so that this baby can actually
Yeah.
grow rather than become stagnant and basically almost stillborn in a
Yeah.
way. So yeah,
I
I mean, I go
yeah,
ahead.
it's a great job. It's not an easy job. You will get tough questions every single day. You will not know the answers to the questions all the time, right? Like, you might not even be the right audience for some of these questions. Like, I've been on pursuits where it's like, oh, you really, I think who you need to talk to is a technologist, not me. Like, I really don't know the answer to that level set of questions. Like, you need an architect here to look under the hood, essentially, to like really answer
Mm-hmm.
with those questions accurately. So yeah, like I love being a business analyst because every day you get to encounter so many different problems at so many different industries, and you get to help and make build really cool products that like impact so many people's lives. Like it's really remarkable, and I know that some of the stuff that I'm building will totally like weirdly outlive me, and it's like it's really crazy like to think like, okay, this will change the world. It'll change the world one way or another, so it's really exciting.
Yeah, I mean, I can only imagine just some of the things that you have to deal with on a day to day job. I mean, it's pretty neat that you're able to go into this realm where you had originally started, like you said, you were very young, you saw board games, you're like, oh my gosh, this is awesome. And then of course you hit those academic years where I don't have
I
time for
know.
games or people
I don't
or
have a
anything. I'm
life.
gonna
I gotta
be
put my head in the books, and yeah, I wish
yeah.
I wish I had given myself more slack because it's just like, yeah, like, yeah, I could have enjoyed so much more, but that's okay. I'm older and wiser now. I'm here to like enjoy all different aspects of my life, including gaming, and I think that's fine. Like it's great what I get to do every day, so it's awesome.
So what has been the game? I mean, of course, you have some amazing games that you all have under your
Yeah.
belts. But what has been something that you've really enjoyed lately that's outside of the XYZ game
Sure.
realms?
So actually, oh my God, there's so many. I'm starting to get my partner into gaming, which has taken a bit of time. Believe it or not, I'm the one who wants to play games more than my partner Jack. Um, and the game that's gotten us kind of hooked actually is Chronicles of Crime because we both are in technology, so we love the QR code scanning and being able to solve crimes, and we like murder mystery stuff, and so he really got into that. Um, and then he also like was a former theater junk, so he like reads all the voices like different, like he actually acts out the narrative, so it's literally it's enjoying for me. Like, and he must have fun doing it because he keeps on doing it, reading out the voices. So yeah, Chronicles of Crime's great. I also backed the Millennium series. I have not even opened any of the Millennium series. We're still working through all the other expansions like Noir and stuff.
Oh my
But
gosh,
yeah,
you, you have to get into 1400. 1400. The difference between now the thing I felt about when I played Chronicles of
yeah,
Crime. I felt with Chronicles of Crime, the first one, I could easily just have played it solo and gone and done with it. And that's kind of how I did it. I didn't really get involved with my wife and daughter or our
Yeah.
kids. You know, sometimes the scenes are a little gruesome, but 1400. There's something about the idea of having a pet dog.
Mm.
I don't know why. I
Oh, you
love
have
the
a
idea
little
of having a dog.
companion. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. So you've got like a companion, and that companion actually serves a purpose. Like you're like, oh, hey, smell these, dog, and then the dog smells it, and you're like, all right, we're off, and like the dog's running in a direction, and so you kind of just can imagine it. And what's really neat is the narration and the not so much the narration, but the audio atmosphere. Like when you're in the market,
Yeah.
you hear voices of like people in the
Oh,
background,
that's
and you
different.
hear the
Okay.
crowds. So I think you're gonna love that. But yeah, 1400 for me was I think the one that I enjoyed the most, and my daughter and my wife
Mhm.
jumped on board. I think we've been very impressed with Lucky Duck's representation of the 1400
Yeah.
Paris, especially after playing Court of Miracles, which is another game that they had that was around Paris,
Yeah.
which is kind of cool.
Yeah,
But
I mean, I'm also just like impressed by the mobile app development. So for both sides of my interest, it just like really intrigues me. So it's just like, oh man, this is okay. Like goals, hashtag goals. Like I want to do, like this is amazing. So yeah, very inspiring work all around. So
yeah, and plus it has the VR. Like you could get the goggles just to be able to put your phone into it. I mean, that's a whole lot easier than trying to make a headset
yeah,
or purchase a VR headset, which is
yeah,
ridiculously
yeah.
overpriced.
So all things
So yeah,
considered, pretty accessible, right?
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Rachel's
Yeah.
mentioning Joni,
So
my dog. So cute. I have a dog named Joni, named after Joni
oh,
Mitchell,
nice.
and she is my sidekick.
Oh,
But
okay.
I have to kick her out because she will demand the screen time if I let her.
No, I understand that. We have our three cats that we got over 2020. We got three cats in 2 months, and this one cat, Furball. Yep,
Oh,
we named the cat
that's so
Furball.
cute.
And Furball will just jump up onto this table sometimes during a live stream. Like um, we were actually doing the 20 something hour live stream, and the cat would go back to the back of the monitors. I'm like, please don't come out, please don't come out, please don't come out from underneath. And luckily the cat stayed still. But yeah, it's wild having pets and board games. We're learning more and
Yeah.
more. Before it was just having board games and not having to worry about things jumping up there and being like, I want to play with this. This looks like fun.
Wonderful.
So, tell us about what's going on because you all have. I mean, I played it. I had a blast playing it, and I can't wait to play it
Yes.
again because we're going to play tonight, and hopefully, I will defeat Justin or at least do better than Justin. But tell us about Arch Ravels
Yes.
because I know I personally have really enjoyed
Yeah.
it. Um, but I'd love for you to just tell everybody else about this game, uh, and of course continue talking about your friend because I did find the one story about Ted to be very
Yes.
interesting.
All right. So Arch Ravels is a board game about knitting and crocheting. So your goal is to buy yarn from the yarn bazaar, look at your patterns to knit and craft cozy items, and you turn in those cozy items to maximize your point values by completing projects. And then throughout the yarn bazaar, if you are a knitter, you might get asked by a friend to like, oh, can you build me knit me some birdie mittens, or can you knit me this infinity scarf? And so a lot of times people who craft get asked by their friends and family to craft them things, and so you have the responsibility or the choice then whether or not to accept that project or to give to someone else. And so there's a little fun thing there where you either accept it or you don't, and if you don't finish it and you accepted it, you lose that point. So it really is like your responsibility. And then throughout the game there's also like really fun action cards like the Tangled Cat, who will just get in you to your stash and like whatever, like like actually like chase the yarn ball that you're trying to knit with and cause chaos. So then you cannot craft in your next turn. So we included elements there that are like not only just playful, but like actually reflect real life fiber artists and knitters and crocheters who have to deal with these everyday problems, but also highlight like really awesome, cool things. Like, for example, we have asymmetric powers, but these asymmetric powers represent real facets of the fiber artist's life. So, for example, there's a thrifty shopper, and that person shops for yarn. And if you know anyone who knits and crochets, they love their yarn. And so, shopping for yarn is a big aspect of being in fiber arts. We have a color specialist, and they're the characters that can dye the yarn to whatever liking they want it to be. So they have that special ability to ignore some patterns every once in a while. Then you have the master crafters. So they're the people who could craft super fast or crochet really fast, and so those are the people who get like a hat done in like a single day. And then we have the yarn spinner, which is the story that Chris really enjoyed. And the yarn spinner is someone who can spin up yarn. And that is an actual thing where you take wool and you're able to turn it into yarn and then use it. So that person could just basically generate their own yarn. And so they get to skip the whole yarn bazaar process and go straight to the supply. And yeah, there's a lot of great stories integrated into Arch Ravels. Every single character there has a backstory, actually. Every single character has like a reason why they're included. They all have their own names. They all have their own favorite projects. They all have their inspirations. But yeah, Ted is the quote unquote hot spinner because my best friend, who is a professional fiber artist, she got her MFA in fiber arts, and she professionally knits and weaves. She called me one day and she said, "Hey, I've met this guy. He's so great, so gorgeous." Like, yeah. It's like, he's so good at spinning. And that was it. It was so great. And like, she didn't share anything else. And so I just love her so much for that. And I'm like, oh my God. And like, it's funny, like stories that she tells me, like I remember them. I'm like, oh my God, we gotta have a hot spinner in this game. And actually it's really neat because there are a lot of fiber artists who are not the typical grandmother. So it's great to show that there's, different diverse groups of people who craft and make cool stuff. And another character too is Derek, and Derek is a handicapped individual who's a master crafter, and I thought that was really significant because obviously because he's handicapped doesn't make him less able. He's actually one of the more powerful characters. He's the master crafter, and that's because he can knit like crazy. And that was really important to me because at the time that we were designing and developing this game, my best friend Nicole was dealing with chronic pain, and she unfortunately had to start using a wheelchair because they couldn't figure out what was going on with her. And when she told me that, I was first of all very heartbroken because this is like my best friend since we were 4 years old. We used to like ride bikes up and down the street, and she's now in a wheelchair, and it was just so shocking to me. And so when she told me that, I talked to the team like, we've got to add a handicap character in there, and I want it to be the most powerful character because that is my best friend. So yeah, we're so glad to have Derek in there as well because it's also really important to represent the less able people who are also not just not any less value, actually could also be one of the more powerful people in their own unique and special way, right? So yeah.
Yeah, I mean one of my favorite things when I was looking at the game and I was looking at all the different player boards, you had variety.
Yeah.
You had it to a level where people could say, "That's me," and that's something that's important. I think in a lot of games that are out there now, we talk about inclusivity, like games like what is the game that I'm trying to think of? Floor Plan, which was by Deepwater Games. They worked on that. They had pronouns, they had different races, cultures, creeds. And what's really neat is when you see that and you can see that and you automatically think to yourself, oh, that's me.
Yeah.
That's me in the game.
Yeah.
And I think that's important for people to feel like they can be in a
Yeah.
game. Because then it's more relatable for them.
Absolutely. Because at the end of the day, it's not just a board game we're making, right? We're building experiences, and those experiences require human, you know, care and empathy, right? Like they need to see themselves in there, and that's what builds. You know, if you want to build a good product, you have to think human first design, which is like one of my favorite phrases, and that goes for any product. It can go for software, it can go for, you know, game development. You got to think human first, because really there's so many psychological things that really impact and influence good product design. So we absolutely did our user research there. We did user interviews. We had crafting consultants. But on top of that, you know, like my best friend Nicole said, you know, I was saying like how I want more representation in games, and she said too that not only do we need more representation in games, we need more representation in fiber arts. And she told me more stories about how important it is to make sure that fiber artists are, you know, are represented and are represented. So, for example, one of my favorite characters is actually Niha, and Niha is Indian
Mm-hmm.
of Indian descent. She is the color specialist, and Niha is one of the more important characters because it is to highlight India's contributions to ink dyeing because of their, you know, their history with spices, right? And so that was really important to make sure that we pay homage to that culture and to their contributions to fiber arts. And so Niha is one of the cooler characters that we really tried to highlight. Like, hey, fiber arts is really a multicultural uh, hobby, and it's not just knitting. It's not just, you know, yarn. There's so much more to it, and so many different groups of people contributing to making such a colorful and beautiful hobby.
Well, talking about beautiful, there's a lot of beautiful people in here that just rated us. Paula Deming, um, and Crystal, and I see all of you beautiful people.
So,
Just real quick, I'm going to quickly put in a shout out to Paula. But folks of you that are just joining us right now, we are actually talking to the amazing Lauren
mm-hmm.
Nepomuceno. Did I say it right that time?
Nepomuceno, very close. You're good.
Maceno, Nepomuceno. Okay, I I'm trying. I'm saying it. I'm saying it. We talked about this earlier backstage. That I'm saying it the
American way,
American
yes.
way. The
I'm trying
American
to
way.
reclaim the Filipino pronunciation because my Filipino family was like, "What? That's not how you say our name." So I was
But
saying it
no,
wrong for most of my life, so I'm trying to correct it too. So you're
yeah. And for those of you who've missed it, we were talking about how some of the hottest guys can spin some yarn. That's something
yes.
that we talked about just a little while ago. So you missed out on that. However, one of the things that we were just talking about with Arch Ravels is that that it's very inclusive in the art, in the designs, in the actual different players, and actually showing the different representations of characters that you can play as in the
Yes.
game. So you got the hipster yarn spinner, but you've also got the person that is in a
Mm-hmm.
wheelchair who is a master knitter. Then you said you had the person that's from India who is showing respect for the color dyeing, which I like that because
Mm-hmm.
you're giving different people voices
Yes.
in the artwork and in the game, which is just awesome. So, um, but one of the things that you pointed on, you pointed on human empathy,
Yes.
and I think this is a perfect time while we have all these people here right now to talk about a very serious thing about your journey. And also, I'm going to pull up the actual website. You're not going to see it, of course, in the Chrome Sphere thing, in this Zoom
No
thingamabob,
worries.
but our guests will be able to see it. And I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to quickly pull it up, and I'm going to let you kind of talk a little bit about um,
Mm-hmm.
CAWC, what exactly it is, how it helps out with women and children with domestic abuse and
Mm-hmm.
violence, and please feel free to talk about your
Sure.
story as well.
So CAWC stands for Connections for Abused Women and Their Children. They're based in Chicago, Illinois, which is where I'm from, by the way. Welcome to Chicago. Hi from Chicago. And CAWC is Chicago's oldest domestic violence nonprofit. It was actually the first domestic violence nonprofit pretty much funded, started in this country. And they also started the first domestic violence hotline in the United States. So they've been around for pretty early and really for quite a long time. And one thing that is so unique about them too is that they provide a shelter that's called a greenhouse shelter based in Humboldt Park. And it is one of the only shelters in the Chicago area that is specifically just for battered women and including their children. So a lot of times shelters accept just the women and they don't have any additional room for children. So it is really one of those organizations that hopes to, to provide safety for not just to the victims, but to secondary victims as the children who are living in these conditions as well. And so it is really a remarkable organization. They've done some wonderful things, and they also provide training for volunteers. They still have a hotline today where they provide, services and advice to women. And especially in this pandemic, it is called the shadow pandemic, is what it's called. And the shadow pandemic right now is basically the pandemic of violence towards women as a result of the quarantine and coronavirus pandemic. So it is, right now it's really tough for women, and they're seeing a 20% increase in demand, sadly. They are at full capacity at the shelter. They are raising funds to hopefully build a second shelter, which is hopefully coming soon. But it is truly one of those organizations where I used to serve actually on the junior board of, and I've looked at their financials, and they are one of the more selfless nonprofits that I've seen, and they really give it their all, and it's not like they're pocketing any money or giving it towards marketing or silly stuff. Everything that they get, they funnel back to helping these women and their children. So it's really a wonderful organization. I can't say more positive things about Stephanie Love Patterson, the CEO of CAWC, who I've worked closely with, and she's wonderful. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, reading through this, and people can see this too, just the fact that there's a 24-hour crisis phone
Mm-hmm.
line, there's refuge, there's planning. Court advocacy is a big thing
Yes.
because in certain situations, it's hard for somebody to even go. It gets to a certain level before, usually most situations, before somebody actually will leave the home and leave that situation.
Yes.
So it has to get usually to a level of, of, of a degree. And so, domestic disputes or domestic violence that happened even beforehand that wasn't reported, there's got to be ways of being able to at least advocate
Yeah.
for that. Um,
Yeah, so I could talk
yeah,
about my firsthand experiences too with court advocacy. So when I first when I was living with my ex who was abusive, I called 911, and unfortunately the police officer kind of discouraged me from pressing any charges. And it was really interesting, like you might hurt this person's life forever, or ruin it, discourage me essentially. So I ended up not pressing charges, and I just ended up leaving. Unfortunately, just from me leaving, even though I was in a safer situation, my ex continued to stalk me, and it was very serious. It was very scary. And instead of calling 911 immediately, I actually found CAWC and I called them, and their core advocacy and their training for their volunteers. First of all, the training for their volunteers is really intense. Like, it's not just like, a sit-in seminar for like 8 days or for 8 hours. It is like an intensive training. And they walked me through every step, every step along the way to file an order of protection. And I felt so helpless because I was out of the situation, but then I was getting stalked. I was like, how do I stop this person? And it was the one time where I really felt empowered because I was able to really leave and then really, protect myself in some sort of way and to take, legal action. And so, yeah, their court advocacy is a wonderful they explained to me all the different order protections, emergency order protection, and then the plenary order protection, which is like the 2-year order protection. And then they even told me like, okay, you know, take off the rest of the day, go to the court, go to this court over here, that's closest to where you live. In fact, we're going to call, they're called DV angels. So we're going to call a DV angel who's on scene at the court, who will walk you through your case and file all the paperwork for you and help, you know, clean up your story. And, you know, it's going to get passed today. And that was done like, you know, 4 hours later after. Yeah, it was like, it was a terrible day, but like my ex was basically going to show up to my work, and I had to leave work and figure out a solution. And they were so helpful, and I felt immediately safer to have gone through that steps. And I felt I was so lost beforehand, and just having them hold my hand throughout that process was like so empowering and so amazing. And yeah, they're just really a great organization. So yeah.
I'm glad you
Yeah.
reported, and I'm glad you were able to find peace through that organization. I'm very disappointed
Yeah.
that you were discouraged before, which that's not how it should
Yeah.
be. I'll say this to people too. Um, if you if you have a friend and you see it happening, and you see them doing it, or you see them doing it to somebody, report
Mm-hmm.
it. Talk to them too. Tell them, hey, it's wrong.
Yep.
Because you got to think about these things, especially when they have kids. And it even says in here, and this is truth. Did you know, it says on here on the website, children don't have to be directly abused to be impacted by domestic violence. Witnessing the abuse of a parent in itself is a form of trauma and abuse.
Yep. Yeah, and it's
Um,
true. There are so many people even on the board, and even speakers who are, one of the speakers, I believe he is an upper vice president at Allstate Insurance. He was a speaker there, and he is a was a child witness of domestic violence, and he supports the AWC because he saw firsthand how they helped his family in that situation. So yeah, it's really, it's there's so many people who get hurt by these actions, these terrible actions by some people, but there's also, you know, great people out there who are willing to help just other people out, you know. So yeah, CAWC is great, and I cannot speak more about it. And you know, I'm so glad that I am here to live the tale and to talk to you guys, and you know, to be an advocate for DV survivors. And because you know, really becoming a survivor is really, you know, owning up to what happened to me, but also growing from it and to speaking out loud about this issue, because it's happening 20% more because of the pandemic,
yeah,
and it's really real. So yeah.
yeah. You think about it, people are going outside less. And it's sad because I remember talking with Christina Cordero Rouse from Blue Bag Pink Bag, and she works with child
Mm-hmm.
advocacy. And in most situations, kids are usually able to report to a teacher about abuse. Like that's at least a safe place for the
Yeah.
most part. Where if a child is being abused or they're seeing their family member being abused, they're able to
Yeah.
report that. But during 2020, kids are at
Yeah.
home. Kids are at home and they're not able to go to a teacher and say this is
and a lot
happening,
of
or they're not
and
able
a lot
to
of women
report
have
to
left the
anybody.
workforce, and they're meant there, and they've done that because they have to stay at home, likely to watch over the kid, because of, you know, at home schooling. So there's a lot of pressures right now at home, and you know, it's really hard to tell. But you know, there are definitely some, there's still fighters out there. You know, they're fighting the good fight, by offering all these amazing services, and also, you know, just train. And they also included one thing that they've done that was really amazing. They also re-implemented DV training services at the at hospitals, like in emergency rooms, to detect domestic
Nice.
violence cases. So
Good.
it's really
Good.
one of the places where you could really intersect that and stop it. And so that's been one thing that they've really been championing for a lot of organizations to really and for a lot of hospitals to really pay attention to, especially this year.
Yeah, I mean it is very important because you think about it. Um, if they're in the hospital already, God forbid. But if they're in the hospital, you definitely don't want them going back
Mm-hmm.
home because there's no chance. I mean, the next chance that they come to the hospital, it might be in a
Yeah,
bag.
and yeah, and
So
it's real, and you would be surprised by how high the statistic is. So I have a statistic here. Sorry, I'm a nerd.
no, it's
Like
it's good.
so
Let
before so
that's good.
before the pandemic, 1 in 3 women experience physical or sexual violence by an intimate partner. So if that's increased by 20%, that's a lot. Okay. And then and even more so for women of color, that that statistic before the pandemic was 50%. So to put in perspective, that is the reality that a lot of women are experiencing. And for Women's History Month, it is Women's History Month. This is something that you know I've been having a hard time to celebrate as much because I know that this is happening for so many women right now. But I hope that that more people can consider you know um, you know caring or investigating or giving back to your local women's shelter if possible, because this is really a marginalized group that's being impacted right now. So yeah.
No, it's beautiful. There's organizations like
Mm-hmm.
this that were able to even help you when other systems
Yeah.
didn't. Um, I'm glad that there's organizations like this, and I know that not everybody has organizations like this, but need to find ways to reach
Mm-hmm.
out. Um, I am sure that organizations like this, if they're up there in that top right, and I'll make sure that I scroll
Mm-hmm.
or that I can hopefully you can see it at 773-278-4566. If you are dealing with anything like that and you need to try to find a shelter, I'm pretty sure that an organization like this has numbers or has ways of getting you in contact with another shelter in the area. I know that we have one personally here in West Virginia
Mm-hmm.
that is specifically for the same thing that you have up there in
And
Chicago.
yeah, and then
Um,
the National Domestic Violence Hotline is 1-800-799-SAFE. So that's another amazing resource that they have also launched up and have also been, really not advertising per se, but like, they recognize the need right now. So that's another great source if you're not based in the Chicago area, or if or have seen signs from a friend, let them know that there are sites like that. And the sites are actually pretty interesting too. They all have hotkeys to hide the screen away from their abuser. So, in the instance where they're trying to formulate an escape plan, tell them to find a safe place, to look at this information carefully, but that there's also ways to conceal it from their abuser as well. So really interesting stuff. And again, technology that they're
yeah,
like features that they have had to add as a result of the primary audience's circumstances, right? So
yep. Yeah, and James, thanks for putting that phone number down in the chat as well. I appreciate that, friend.
mm-hmm.
Yeah, and one of the other things too is I know that there are certain hand symbols and different signals that you can even do
Mm-hmm.
that can indicate that you are being abused as well. And a lot of hospitals, they get taught in the training of that. Especially we have a women's and children's hospital here, um, where that's important. That if you learn some of these things and you want to make it known, that maybe while the other person's in the other room or they're nearby and you just go ahead and do those motions, they can report to get you some sort of safety and get you somewhere
Mm-hmm.
protected. Um, but yeah, no. God forbid these things ever happen to anybody in this chat.
Yeah.
But let's be very real here. If those things are happening to you, please go get help.
Yes.
Um, don't let it get to a situation where you are in a hospital. Don't let it get into a situation where you are dealing with that abuse or watching it happen to your child. God forbid that happens, and God forbid that you lose a life from it, because that's not anything that anybody should even deal with. And if you see it, if you see the abuse, whether it be something small, um, if it's your friend that's doing it, confront it and report it. If it's a friend that's being abused of yours that's being abused, report it and help them get out of that situation.
Absolutely.
Be part of the escape plan if you can.
Absolutely. And for victims too, I know that a lot of abusers, they are very controlling. They tend to separate you isolate you from your friends and family. Um, I guarantee you, if you are the victim, if you haven't spoken to your family for a while or haven't spoken to your friends in a while because of your circumstances, and now you need help and you're scared to reach out, uh, you could reach out to them. They will understand and they will forgive you, and your real friends will be there for you. And that was totally my case. I was totally isolated for like probably 2 years, and I reached out, and yeah, my family and friends pulled through, like 4 cars deep, pulled through outside of my apartment to empty out my move me out that day and bye, like. So I'm just saying, you know, trust in your network and trust in your friends. And if you don't have a network, there are resources. So that's when it gets really tough. That is when you really want to find like an advocacy group like this. So
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
mhm.
Well, I want to say I really do appreciate the fact that you took the time to tell your own personal story, because I know sometimes when we tell our stories, it's good for other people to hear it, but it also does bring back the memories of the abuse, brings back the memories of the domestic violence and
Mhm.
the way that we've been treated. But I am beyond thankful for you for sharing not only the fun stuff that we talked about at the beginning, but also sharing about this amazing organization that is making a difference for women and children who are dealing with abuse.
Absolutely.
So thank you
You're
for that.
welcome. I'm
Thank you.
I'm happy to share this information and to spread health and safety to, you know, people in need.
Yeah, folks, I want to say thank you all for staying here. Really appreciate the fact that you all came in rating right as we're talking about the serious stuff. So it means a lot that you stayed through. Um, but yeah, please, if you're interested in getting involved, that phone number, James put it in the chat. I also put in the chat as well, cawc.org. But also, don't forget, there is a fun game that is coming out that I am thoroughly excited about. We're going to actually be playing later at 8:30 Eastern Standard Time with the amazing Lauren, with Uncle Noah. Why do you call him Uncle Noah, though? I have
Okay.
to ask.
I love that you asked that question. So Jordan, so there's two brothers in the team of XY in part of Team XYZ. So we have Jordan and we have Uncle Noah. And the reason why we call Noah Uncle Noah is because Jordan has 2 kids and they join us every once in a while to stream. And a lot of times it's been Uncle Noah playing games with them. And they're so entertaining. They're so sweet. And they're like, Uncle Noah, Uncle Noah. So, it's fun. So we just call him Uncle Noah because he's like kind of that funkle person in your life. So yeah.
I love it. I love it. I was always curious because you when we were talking, it's like, yeah, I'll ask Uncle Noah to jump on. I'm like,
Yeah, no
so
context. Yeah, we're making it a thing because we were seriously considering, but then yeah, of course the cases went up, but we're seriously considering like maybe like a recurring like Uncle Noah game night with like, Jordan's kids because they love games. They love going on stream night and they love their uncles. So it's great. And they're young kids. So they like have the best reactions to everything. So they're just like, a whole world of like entertainment. So yeah. Hopefully
I
soon
love
we
it.
could get some more regular Uncle Noah time on our Twitch.
That'll be
Yeah.
fun. Well, folks, we're gonna head out. We're gonna be back at about 8:30. We're gonna be playing with Uncle Noah. We're gonna be playing with Justin. We are keeping the rivalry
Oh
going.
man, that
For anybody that's been on Facebook, we've had just nonstop yarn smack talk.
it's amazing. Their
To
puns are so good.
his puns are his puns are really good. Mine are just kind of like I don't really have the time to think these things through or look up all the terminology of what fiber artists do. And he's like, yes, you're gonna be going apart at the
I'm like
seams
convinced.
and
I'm
blah blah blah.
convinced Justin Nix. Like he got everything down. I was like, okay,
He
you
might.
really know
He
your
might. I don't
stuff,
know.
and I was impressed. But yeah, I showed Uncle Noah your yarn talk, and I
Oh
told him
gosh.
like, oh man, we got to get our puns ready for this one.
It's gonna be good. It's gonna be good. Well, Lauren, thank you again for coming on. Of course, I'm going to see you in a little bit. Folks, come on back, join us as well. We're going to have a lot of fun. Yes, needling the competition. I love it, Sass. That is awesome. But yeah, 8:30 Eastern Standard Time. We'll be back playing Arch Ravels, the rematch, and we're going to have a good time. So, folks, we'll see you later. And remember, if we can gather at the table, we can do the same for a good cause. Bye.
Bye.
We also want to thank our sponsor, Greenbrier Games. Be on the lookout for Lost Ones, hitting the Pledge Manager soon.